What is it asking?
It's not saying anything. It's saying stop video. It's saying it should be recording, but
Yeah,
I
that's
don't
another
know.
thing.
No, no, you're good now.
But your camera.
Yeah, she's good now.
Yeah, but her camera is not working, this is what she's saying.
Yes.
Can you request her to?
As long as I can hear you, I'm good.
Yeah, that's fine. It's okay.
Yeah.
It must be something. She might have to start her phone again. That's fine. It's okay.
On my laptop.
Sometimes the thing acts weird.
It's too much.
So we're live streaming now.
All right. Facebook. I mean, live stream on YouTube, right?
YouTube, yeah, YouTube.
Yeah, these people are messing here. I'm like, oh my gosh.
So who would like to go first rather than waiting for more?
Yeah. Let's go ahead and get started.
Yeah.
So how many people got through chapter 5?
I reached to chapter 4 and not 5, 4.
I know I read to about page 160 or so. I don't know what chapter it is though. I keep forgetting.
Oh, that's probably around that.
Good enough.
Yeah, that's covering a lot. So this time you go ahead first. What would you like to? Is that okay?
Okay, yeah, I'll go first. What I find interesting is that how like when the investigator, the journalist, right, when he keeps going back and saying, but here's another thing, and here's another thing, and it's just like you really do realize that it is a protected class, and it must be the way they wanted to go. For him to have such a horrible record as a human being, and then to just keep getting away with it and keep getting away with it is just mind-boggling to me. And then after that, the amount of people that are willing to say, you know what, I'd rather not deal with the truth. And you're right, when Ray, y'all first brought the book up, you was like, it reminds you of a lot what's going on today. And I was like, it does. It just could swap out the people, just the dates, and you had the same thing going on, unfortunately. Yeah.
I kind of want to. I mean, this is my second time reading the book, and it's almost like my first time. And I'm just convinced that he was a government plant. And I'm not saying he's willing government plant. I think he was, and I think I made this argument last time. I think he was. It makes no sense to me that a man who was not well educated spent most of his life in prison. Virtually all of his life in prison, right? How he was in and out, how he was able to convince people who were college educated, who were wealthy, who were high society, how he was even allowed in that circle as somebody who wasn't known in the aristocracy. I mean, he was a loser, nobody. How did he infiltrate? I mean, he was with the Beach Boys. He was with these famous Roman. I mean, he's not directly associated with Roman Polanski, but he's in that circle. He's smoking pot with them.
He's not the drug dealer, so he's not the one bringing them the drugs. He's just in the circle.
Right, he's just in the circle. He's exactly. Exactly. He's not even in the circle. He's not even bringing the drugs, right? He's weird. Where did he develop this skill to be so charismatic?
Is he charismatic though?
Well, I mean, how is he getting in these circles? How is he getting in these circles? How is he getting these women that have sex with him? I mean, every time we turn around, he's having sex with some woman. Whether
Ray, your standards may be high, but everybody's standards ain't high for sex, so we're gonna leave that one alone. But I get what you're saying.
You see what I'm saying? Well, but just take the sex out of it. How is he able to be in these high society parties?
That part.
And not only at the parties, but he's living in their houses.
That
They're
part.
Yeah, I
living
mean,
in their
like,
houses.
I mean, the resources, I mean, I would count LSDs, I would count all the other, as you said, high society. I would count the access he has, and I would count also the kind of his, I mean, he's allowed to leave the prison and all those kind of things. I mean, I can't imagine a person without normal resources or kind of no resources. He's getting all those benefits. It was a question for me, like how he can get so much privileged with all those kind of things, with the society part, with the women part, with the LSD part, with the other kind of drugs, with
Then the
alcohol,
guns
with
and all of that stuff,
The
living on that ranch,
guns.
the guns, and
Hold on.
then every time he get in trouble, somebody is telling
yes,
him, "Bang
yeah,
the
that's a
Black Panthers."
resource. Yeah, that's a resource. I mean, like somebody's at your back, saving you, even whatever you do, and
Yo,
I
how did
And
he
mean,
no
get to
one make
Washington? Right?
it
How
makes
did he
me
get to
wonder
Washington?
that there's so many Black Panthers that have and still are incarcerated, and they're saying they're falsely in prison, and it
I
makes you
mean,
say, must be true, a lot of it.
Right.
I was thinking that he's like a guinea pig for them, probably something they are testing out somewhere.
Well, yeah, I mean,
Mm,
and that's my position is that he was
yeah,
zapped with whatever and hypnotized to be articulate enough and was given enough influence by other people to be allowed in his circle. He was
and
he
to
was
and to
he's
run his and
Manchurian.
to run that place, yeah,
And not only, I mean, he's still in doom buggies. Did you guys get to that far? He's still in like he's not
yes,
stealing like one or two. Like he's he's stealing like he's running a chop shop. He's converting Volkswagen bugs into doom buggies in the middle of the desert. They do the largest. I don't want to spoil it if you haven't gotten that far, but they do the largest raid. Did you guys get that far? The LA
yeah,
SO LASO does the largest raid at that time in their history, and he
and
doesn't even go
nobody
to
get
jail for it.
held. Nobody gets held. Exactly
No
3 days.
one can tell.
Everybody back at the ranch.
Like, how do you do the largest raid, right?
All that
Uh,
coordination, all that coordination that went into it, and people, it's just like they have so many
I mean, you
law
can
enforcement
feel
agencies,
you
and
can you can
nobody.
you can feel that whatever the drama going on in the stage, there are lots of writers and players or those kind of people who are orchestrating these one behind the scene, which you cannot see them directly. So all these things, as I said, there is like a guinea pig. He's like the front end, what's going on. But there are lots of other hands which are controlling it, which you can feel it. I mean, a
Yes.
person
and
with that kind of thing, you can make anybody hero in a movie. In reality, it might be or might not be.
and also you got to consider that Tim O'Neill, the journalist,
Yeah.
author, he's investigating something that's now what 30 years old, 35 years old, and
Yeah.
nobody still wants to talk about it. Like the Manson murders are well known. They're
Yeah,
the
it was
highlight
after
of
the
true crime.
30th anniversary that
Yeah.
they wanted to publish that article
So
for on the
so
30th anniversary.
all these people
Yeah. Yeah.
all these people don't want to talk about it. All
They
these
start
people
talking about it, and then the second or third time he come around, they be like, "I don't want no parts of it." So that just goes to show you that
right,
people are still watching and listening to this day to what
right,
people are doing and saying.
right.
Because they'll start to be like, "All right, I'll talk about it." Like, yeah, sure. Then the next time he come around, they be like, "Listen, let that go."
And,
It's a lot of problems.
and why is the LAPD? Why don't they share the criminal background? I mean, all the records of the case. So he was let in initially. Somebody let
Yeah,
him in on the sly, and then he goes back, and now they say, "Oh yeah,
yeah.
the files are missing." Like, what's really going on here?
And
How the
even that
files are
those
missing? How the
record
files missing in one of the most
and the records.
infamous murders in American history? Like you have the Sharon Tate murders, and then you have what's the baby that was kidnapped um back in the 20s?
John Bonet.
No,
Oh
yeah, John
no,
Bonet
that
is on that
wasn't
list.
John
John
Bonet.
Bonet is on that list. but John Bonet is on that list. But it was the other one, the famous pilot. His baby,
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
you know what I'm talking about. His baby was taken out of his home. Like, but those are
Yeah,
like
yeah.
the three most famous like criminal things in American history, right? Like well documented, well investigated, um, very mysterious. But why in the Manson trial? Again, this guy is not the son of a senator, right? Like he's a nobody. He's a hobo. He's a
And
vagrant.
when he come to them people, the people that he go to that have the money or whatever, he treat them like they beneath him, and they like he going to them being humble or anything. He go to them like, listen, he
Yeah,
on
like
their
a cult
level above
leader.
them. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, did you guys get to the part where when I think before the raid they send some cops out there or something, and he threatens them and tell them that there's people on the hills.
Yeah, on the hill
Like
they are
to the
going to
cops,
shoot you, or they are going to.
what
I
is
mean,
going
like,
on? Like,
He like my shooters up there, so be careful.
right,
They
yeah.
watching you.
Like, watch yourself, watch your mouth. Like, where does he get that? That's almost like, where does he get that authority? Like, how does he get that? He's a nobody. That
Right. And so even back then they had so many law enforcement agency, and it's like still nobody is getting locked up unless they want them to get locked up. It's not
and the
like
people that
they get
okay, what about the time when he was court? Now, mind you, he's on parole.
yeah, he's on parole.
mind mind
there
you,
are many.
he's on the parole for the one thing that happened, what, 10 years, like years ago,
Way back. He done
right?
been all over the place locked
He has
up.
been on
Yeah.
So
parole
he's been
for many,
locked
many
up.
And then
things.
all
He's
the
been
underage girls that was always with them, and their parents even looking for their daughters, and their daughters going back to them, and they know that's where their children are at, and so forth and so on. And he just walk around with the girls the next day, and nothing is being done. It's like so weird.
It's weird. So the father lets him in. Was that the guy that was the priest at one point? He lets the in the house. Manson takes the daughter, takes her far off. She's underage. He catches up with Manson. He he's mad. I guess he wants to fight Manson. Manson kisses his feet, and then he's like, "Oh, okay, it's okay," and then
I
lives in the
know.
house with them. Then moves in with them.
Yes. Yes. Do you
Like,
think
I
people are
mean,
like that because of money? Because they like money? Like, what would make a man do
yeah, but
that? Like, you
Manson didn't
don't have
have
to.
money.
yeah,
Manson
but
didn't have any
he,
money.
but
That's
all
right.
these are
He didn't have
that.
money.
Yeah, but these all resources. How he? I mean, like, unless there is a. I mean, because I have listened to that conversation, as I told you. So, I mean, all the hands are like more. He's even himself, Tom O'Neill. He doesn't want to pinpoint anything or suggest anything where he doesn't have the evidence, in order not to get himself caught into, I mean, other lawsuits or other stuff like that.
Right.
So I don't know. Without those resources, nobody can enjoy that kind of liberty, that kind of status, that kind of position in that
So he's
cult
caught.
or in that
He
whatever.
he's caught. He's caught something that was very telling. He's caught with the 15-year-old girl, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
They have pot. They smoking weed, and they obviously just had sex, right? The 15-year-old girl gets caught. I mean, gets charged with the drugs,
And she gets
right?
let go to her parents, though.
Yeah, but she's the one gets charged. He doesn't get charged.
No.
How does that work?
And the
So,
people
like,
at the LA Sheriff's Office, they always say the same thing. Well, I don't know if something happened like that. It have to be a three-letter intelligence agency that has to be doing this or whatever. So everybody knows when it's over their head. They know what it is, but they just won't say anything.
well, as the chapters go
We are
on,
so
Tom,
screwed.
as the chapters go on, our author starts to begin to connect the dots. I'm not going to spoil it, but he begins to connect the dots because he's going to find out. He's soon going to find out some very revealing things about our friend in the family, um, because
And
of their sexual behavior. It's going to be a lot of things are recorded because of their sexual behavior. Uh, that's where it's, in the next couple of chapters after you get out of five, it's going to start to really go into the woods about like what's really going on here, and you have to submit to the fact that Manson. I think at some point they fried his brain. So and it was almost like a joke. They didn't have to kill him because his brain was all fried, right? So he could be in prison and have these interviews and just sound ridiculous because his brain is fried.
but my thing is what, like, I know we're gonna get to the end of the book or whatever, and I don't watch Helter Skelter or I read Helter Skelter or watch the movie or anything. But I'm just trying to figure out like the end his end game, kind of like, why did they let him, if the government was controlling him, why would they let him go to them extremes and kill all the many people? Did he just go off the rails? Like initially, because he wasn't arrested initially, he went back out the next day and he had did some stuff before he even got to Sharon Tate and them. He had did some stuff before he even got there. I just don't understand. Like,
Yeah,
why wouldn't they stop him before all the murders or whatever? Why did they just let him go? Just to be like at the end to be like, well, we got you now, and you and your people are locked up and so forth and so on. Why would they let it go on so long if the FBI and CIA or whatever had infiltrated them and knew what they was doing?
can I offer a theory? I
Mhm.
think
Besides Hollywood, yes.
yeah, I think the three-letter organizations intentionally needed people like Manson to infiltrate Hollywood to make them as corrupt and have something on them because you got to remember what time this was. This was the flower child time. This is a time where people were complaining
They
about
wanted peace
Vietnam,
after the wars and all of that stuff.
peace,
After the civil
peace,
rights
love,
era, all of that stuff. Yeah.
and this was a
Black Panther
threat.
Party, Malcolm Martin, everybody dead now.
This
Yeah,
is
I
a
JFK.
mean,
so
like,
this is a so-called threat to democracy because
whi- which year?
it's one.
Which
Hold on a
year?
second. Hold on a second. It's one thing to have black people. You had so much going on. You had black people fighting for civil rights. You got
Yes, this is what.
The Black Panther movement. You have the beginnings of the Vietnam War, right? Because this is '69, right? So you got the Vietnam War going on, or not the beginning. You're in the heat of the
Ended.
Vietnam. You're in the heat of the Vietnam War. You're having educated white kids, which is the biggest threat. Now let's go back. Let's fast forward to the future, right? What is Biden is now saying or has said in the past that the biggest threat to democracy is who?
Domestic terrorism.
But specifically white men, white
Yeah.
supremacists, white supremacists, right? Now you tie
Yes.
that into that's a threat. They consider these guys a threat because unlike the Black Panthers, where you could just dope them up, right, and just infiltrate their organization quite easily,
And
it's
then
harder,
lie on
and then
them. It
lie
was
on them.
easier to lock them up.
It's
Because
harder to
even
do it.
Manson said it 2 or 3 times. He said, if you get caught, just say it was the Black Panthers. He said
Right.
it 2 or 3 times throughout. And I'm just on page 160. So I'm just saying.
Well,
Yeah, if you.
that was so Tim O'Neill goes two ways with the whole pig thing. He suggests that they wrote pig because they wanted the police to believe it was the Black Panthers, but they were so sloppy, right? When they went to the guy's house and killed the guy, and then they answered the door. Like these people are weird. They answered the door and they killed the man. Like they answered his phone, weirdos. So it was obvious that they weren't going to believe it was the Black Panthers because there's a lot of evidence to the contrary, right? They left a witness, the guy in the Sharon Tate murders. Remember, the guy is in the guest house. Why didn't he get killed? Nobody noticed that he was in the guest house. The guest house was 60 feet away. Who was really that guy? Like, was he really a CIA agent or a member of the LAPD? Like,
Even the
why didn't he? And he claims that he didn't hear anything. Now all that stuff going on in that house, people screaming. Remember, they ran outside. They shot the guy outside. They stabbed the
yeah,
guy and the lady
they
outside.
hit his
He didn't.
yeah.
He didn't hear anything, and he's 60 feet away.
What do you think about that hairdresser or that guy who was the Sharon Tate's ex?
The
Oh,
hairdresser,
that was in
he
the
did.
house.
Yeah, who was killed? But there is something written from Tom O'Neill about him that he was like kind of not open about his connections and stuff like that. And he was
Yeah,
in
him
Korean
and
War as well.
Polanski, him and Polanski,
Oh yeah,
Roman Polanski seemed like they was really close too.
yeah. That's the Polish
Something
guy, right?
on.
Yeah. And why are
Yeah.
all these guys Polish? You ever ask yourself like, what's the connection with
Yeah,
that?
because I remember like after the Cold War, the Soviet thing with Russia, all of that stuff, blah 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 blah. They said that a lot of them were hired by the United States to work with NASA and all of this place. And this is a really good movie if you ever get a chance to watch it. It's like a series, but it's only one season long
What's the
called
name?
Hunters. Hunters, Hunters, and this with Al Pacino and whoever else, some more people. It was on Amazon Prime. I don't know where you could find it at now. And it talks about how people from the Holocaust that survived, they go back after these Nazis and how they had infiltrated the United States government. They'd be like congressmen and all these people, all of, maybe mostly in the southern states or whatever, and how these people going back, picking them off one by one, because you have so many factions that want control. And I don't think that any of them mean anybody any good except themselves, whoever groups
Yeah,
they are. They don't not good
and
the
I
good for everybody.
so I think Manson was a plant by a three-digit. I like what you said, the three-letter
Definitely.
organizations,
Definitely.
and it's to make sure that Hollywood wasn't continuously promoting the uprising of America, and that Hollywood
Right.
created movies that basically, remember I talked about last time we met, Bread for Circus, right?
Yeah.
That movies that wasn't going to inspire people to fight against the government.
Have you ever read or heard? I mean, I remember a long time ago, there was a guy who was like kind of, I mean, he was working for NASA before, Bill Casing, I think, if I correctly.
Bill Casey, a part of the
Bill
Reagan
Casing,
administration.
Bill, Bill Casing. He was
No.
working for something like they were using some like in the NASA programs, there were something like space things, and like he was there some consultant there, but later on he just ran away into the desert where he could like he had a caravan or that portable house, so he was living there, and he built casing. I remember I used to listen to his things about the moons and moon
Oh yeah,
landing and
okay.
other
So
stuff.
Bill Casing was an American author and conspiracy theorist who claimed that the Apollo moon landings
Yeah,
between 69 and 17
and
were
but
hoaxes.
he was an expert. He wrote the
Yeah.
They always say that honest people are hoaxes. Go ahead, Auntie. I'm sorry.
No. I was just chime in. Let us and
I
then I'll
couldn't hear
come in.
you.
Go ahead, Asin.
No, Asin, you finish, and then
Yeah,
I'll say
I
something.
mean, like even at that time, I had some other guys, and even I would figure out there was a movie called Odyssey 2001, and the director of that one, and especially I will come to that one. There was something, I mean, suspicious about his movie. It was so fast forward before I mean, he started making it in 1961, I think, and then it was released like maybe 6, 7 years after, and it was just around the time or before the moon landings. And then the guy, I forgot his name. He was having a beard and something, and then he was the director of the, I mean, he was the those, I mean, forgot the name. It will come to my mind. Anyway, so he had a special lens which he used for shooting his movies in the Hollywood. Only, I mean, at that time, the color lens and all those kind of specific lens, nobody else had, and only NASA had that lens. So I was like, I will come to that with the full details. I forgot his name of that director. Anyway, you go ahead, Dr. Mahasan.
So hi everybody. I know I haven't talked to anybody in a long, long time, and I'm just walking in. I don't know how much I missed. I tried to hear as much as I could. I just wanted to chime in on, I think what Ray just said, that, and I think maybe Khadija said the same thing, is that even though this was a time, like you said, during flower power and everyone freely expressing themselves and using, mood enhancing drugs to kind of let their inner spirit or whatever come out. I mean, we've always had these events in America, right? They've always existed. There's always been something to kind of mesmerize the people to do something that the government wants done anyway. And there's always been a group that the government could depend on blaming. At this time, during the Manson situation, it was so, Hollywood was it, right? So you look at now, fast forward to 2024, 2025 of the new millennia, and you have these same people speaking out for the people. And we're not a part of their society at all. And yet they're put in the forefront during political events to speak for us. And that is to just keep a group of people, in a particular position. And I think that Manson was no different. He definitely was not necessarily planted, but I think he was created for the purpose of being able to do some of the things that, the three-letter organizations have been able to do, and they continue to do till today.
Right. Yeah. And to basically reduce the power of Hollywood, because you got to remember, I think the powers that be at that time learned a very valuable lesson from the civil rights movement, and that was the power of the camera. If it wasn't for the camera and the advent of television and uh, the civil rights movement would not have been as successful, because those civil rights leaders were extremely smart.
Kennedy, when Kennedy was running, they said when Kennedy was running, he was the first one that learned how to use media with his political campaign, right? So camera. That was that goes back to camera, yes.
So I think the powers that be understood that, hey, look, we can't have what happened in the civil rights movement. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna dirty the camera lens. And we dirty the camera lens by making sure everybody who's powerful in Hollywood, they're doped up, or we get them having relations with children, or we get them involved in a bunch of nonsense. I mean, how does the Beach Boys get involved with Charles Manson? Like, how does that work? Explain. And Melcher.
Everybody kind of knew that sex, drugs, and rock and roll kind of like went together back in the 60s. It was like a thing.
But also it was uptight. But also it was you also had uptight America, right? So like working class America was still uptight.
I would ask you.
What was working class? But I think that's a dichotomy we got to look at. Right? The juxtaposition is very interesting here, because America, I wouldn't say middle class America. Let's say working class America. I don't like the term middle class. Working class America was still conservative, extremely conservative, right? People still went to church, right? People still had values and morals, right? And so now you have this counterculture of people doing, like you said, flower power and sex, drugs, and rock and roll. And why is this, right? So is this because the powers that be could not have this well-regulated group of people who are now getting more information via, like we are with social media and with the internet, right, rather, have more and more access to information, i.e., through the television, you need to make sure they don't become too smart. And again, I would offer bread for circus. So you have to begin to create a generation of people, of citizens who want to begin to question things, but question things with dirty hands,
Yeah.
right? They're not questioning things with the Bible, right?
Yeah, I mean, if
Because
you
that's a hard you can't that's a hard person to really condemn. Somebody who's walking straight, Boy Scout, has a Bible, has a kid, doesn't fornicate, you know what I mean, is cleans his neighborhood up, helps his neighbor. Um, but you can definitely go after people who are vagrants, who are fornicators, who don't have any real religious affiliation. They're easy, they're soft targets. And then you can use those. I mean, listen, let's be real. That's what was done to us with rap, to black people with rap music, right?
Crack
And
epidemic.
crack and rap, right? So
Not
they
hip
use
hop, not hip hop, rap. Let's keep that right. Not hip hop, not rap.
uh, hip hop, rap.
Sorry,
It's
Ashton,
just
go
that
ahead.
it's just been infiltrated. It's been infiltrated to the point where now the music has no value, right? It has no moral value, and it's all so you can't take a rapper seriously.
Trash.
You can't. So,
I
but
was,
black people have always been soft targets in that regard.
uh,
So I think what we're seeing, I think what Charlie Manson and the family represents is just is the ultimate bread for circus. You keep people doped up, you keep people interested in having sex and fornication. You keep them you mix it with money, right? Um, and what you do is you create a different type of culture where people are not worried about praise and worship on a Sunday, but where they're going to get their next fix.
Sure.
And I think that's
was,
important. I think that's
yeah.
important when you're talking about power and control.
I was thinking and imagining that the year 1968 would look like, or would have
Yeah.
looked, or what was like. It was the time when I think Martin Luther King was assassinated around the same time.
Mhm.
King was assassinated in 68. Yeah, I believe it was 68.
Yeah, around that time. And also the space thing and this Odyssey movie, that I was talking about. Yeah, I searched for that guy's name was Stanley Kubrick, the director of that movie. Stanley Kubrick.
Director? Okay.
Yeah, Stanley
Yeah,
Kubrick. Yes.
I never saw
yeah.
Odyssey. I got to see that one day. Actually, I never was into
Because
that kind of.
if you see that movie, and even his other releases, and that movie, which it talks about the space mission, think about that four forward movie and the things they are talking about the computer, and only NASA could have that kind of thing. And I have read somewhere, and I've read many times, they said that it was the Kennedy time, and then was saying that if you can't make it, fake it.
Well, listen, for the record, I think we went to the moon. I think it's not enough evidence to say that we did not go to the moon.
Well, we can
I'm
talk
sure.
about it.
I'm sure we went to the moon because there was an issue with Russia. It was the Cold War, and that was a big fu to Russia, right? Oh, okay, you can send a satellite into space, and we can send a man on the moon. So, um, listen, with all the smart guys who really don't care about government, like Neil deGrasse Tyson, if we didn't go to the moon, they would tell us we didn't go to the moon, right?
Yeah,
It's
but
just like
think about
it's just like the flat earthers. Like
it's no.
for a while, the flat earthers had really good arguments until very smart people like Neil deGrasse Tyson and famous and astronauts and pilots basically told them to shut up, right? Like stupid. And then now, like there was one famous flat earther who tried to prove that the Earth was flat, and he went to Antarctica. He did it recently, and he had to make a public apology because he was proven wrong that the Earth is round. So, but you had people on that bandwagon for a while. So I think I have enough trust in humanity to say that we actually went to the moon. If we didn't, all those people involved would have said something by now.
I
I
digress on
mean,
that one.
I
I'm
have,
with Asin
I
on
mean,
this
I'm
one.
not biased on that, but I have been, I mean, it's just the matter of evidence. We can talk about it maybe next time. I mean, the
So tell me a
enough
little
ev
more about the Odyssey movie. They talk about they try to refute or say or they for or against somebody was on the moon. Like, what's the basis of Odyssey?
No,
Did
in the
you do?
Odyssey is about a computer, and then they are moving and going into the space. But thinking about that time, people, I mean, imagining that kind of thing, I mean, putting into a movie at that time, it was way, way forward. The name of the movie was even 2001. And I mean, when I see that, it's some kind of a like, I mean, for a person to understand and imagine those
Oh,
kind of
I know
things.
what's up.
And also, later on, there are some anomalies which I found out later on that it was like, yeah, your camera is on. Good luck.
Yeah, something told me it was on my bar with my camera on my thing. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's what it was. It was closed up here.
Okay, happy New Year, 2025.
Hey, Happy New Year.
Anyway, so I mean, I'm not biased towards it, but I have enough evidence that I mean, in few sentences, it's just like you had your PhD and all of a sudden you forgot everything and you went into the high school. So I don't know.
And for some reason, I just don't ever believe that man made it on the moon, although I saw it. I saw the movies. I know what they say. I'm not a scientist, nowhere near it. I just don't believe because I just believe, hate to interject religion into it, but I just believe that there's one place where human beings were, although to live, and that's Earth. Sorry.
Listen.
No,
If
this
we
is
can have
something.
cameras, listen, guys. If we have cameras that can see into other solar systems and other galaxies, we can
Sure.
definitely we definitely went to the moon. We sent the satellite to Pluto. I mean, that's an amazing feat, and that's
Yeah, I
on
mean, the
record that we
best
sent.
one.
But
That's
to
on record.
habitat
Do you
it,
know how hard? Do you know
but
how
to
hard it
habitat it,
is? That was extremely impossible.
Yeah, the
That's
Voyager 1
way
and
more
Voyager
unbelievable.
2.
That's way more
Yeah, Voyager.
unbelievable than going to the moon.
Yeah, yeah.
You
I
know how
mean,
far
well, not
Pluto is,
really.
man. No.
No.
Listen, we sent a satellite that circumnavigated Pluto. That's way more far fetched. That's way more far fetched
Yeah, but that's
than
not carrying
going
any
to the
human
moon,
being there.
huh?
That's not carrying any human being.
Do you
I
know how
mean,
hard it
I
is to
believe,
send?
I believe,
We sent a satellite that
yeah,
circumvented a dwarf planet that is at the outer edge of our orbit of our
yeah,
solar
yeah,
orbit. That's
that's
hard.
okay,
totally.
so we know that those places are there, but I'm talking about actually have landed on the moon and like Asin is saying to be able to habitat it. I don't believe it. Just like
No,
those
no, I'm
people
not
that's
saying
up in space
habitat,
right
but
now.
I mean, like there. I would maybe next time I would come up with some things that you would see that I would put the evidence in front of you. Then you can make your mind. I mean, you are free to do that. But like
Yeah, sway me a
even
little bit.
I
Sway me
until
on
like
that.
99, until 99, I was with the same belief. But when I saw the evidence, I mean, like it was compelling and those kind of things. So I would share with you sometime.
Well,
And
again,
But
I was go ahead, Mr. Richard.
so like those there are like 4 to 6 astronauts that went up in space somewhere supposedly back in September, and then they got left up there and they still up there, and they saying like all of a sudden NASA is just out of the picture, and all of a sudden they're waiting for a SpaceX thing to come get them in February when the astronauts went up there for like a few days trip, and now they got stuck up there and they left them. You know what I'm talking about? And I'm like, are they in space or are they not in? They are in space somewhere. I
they
don't
are.
believe, but I don't
No,
believe.
You're
I
talking
believe.
about they
they're
are.
in
They are.
believe
I
orbit,
they
mean,
so
stuck some.
they're in outer orbit.
they
They're in
are
outer
they are
orbit.
just
That's what they're at the
250
space station.
miles
Yeah, they're
away.
in the
I mean,
space. Yeah,
yeah, they
they're in the
are in a
space station.
250. I
Oh,
mean,
they're
a
at the
spaceship is.
space
They're
station.
at the space
Yeah,
station.
that's.
Yeah.
Do you know how far the space station is?
No,
250 miles away.
200 what?
50 miles
It's out.
away.
It's just outside. It's out of the orbit. It's not really
250.
space. like
250 miles away?
Yeah,
so
and you know how far the moon is?
No, but it seems like it should be longer.
400,000 kilometers.
So they only 250 miles away.
yeah. So
up.
if you
that's
listen
like from New Jersey to Baltimore or less.
yeah
Come on.
yeah. So if you listen to Neil deGrasse Tyson, he always
I
talks
saw
about
he was
this.
on Sherry Shepherd yesterday. I saw
Yeah,
him.
he always talks about this. He says that like these astronauts that go into the space station, they're not really going into space. They're
Yeah,
just
they're not
they're in
going
outside
to.
of orbit. It's
Yeah,
not really space.
just like 250. Think about
Yeah, it's
250.
just in orbit.
Yeah,
They're
I'm
just
It's
thinking.
outside
just
of the
like
Earth's orbit.
it's a microgravity.
I mean, listen, I would love to do it. Don't get me wrong, I would love to do it.
I mean, it's still it's a challenge to go to 250. And I will tell you something about there are Van Allen belts. People would know. I mean, they are like a super microwave. So pass through that super microwave as a human being or as a living organism. Think like you are passing through thousands of kilometers through that super microwave. And there are a couple of belts, and there was a scientist anyway. So I mean, let's come back to the book.
But it is a part of the book because eventually they're gonna talk about the Apollo.
Maybe we should read that book next with Tyson. He got a new book out called Merrill something. Maybe we should read. Oh, stop!
No, that's another thing. That's about another subject.
It ain't my time. Sorry.
So let's talk. We haven't talked about Melcher because Melcher is a key person in this whole thing. Because
that's Candace Bergman's son, Melcher, right? Terry Melcher. Yeah, Melcher.
Yeah. That's the producer for the Beach Boys, right? Say that again.
The son of Doris Day.
Yes. Melcher is the son of Doris Day, right? And he's the producer. Right. And so the argument is that all of this was over Melcher. So that's the other argument here is that because Melcher used to live, I think he used to live in the Tea House, right?
Mm-hmm. If not, he used to go to the ranch a lot, and everybody knew he did, and he got the lot so many times on the stand.
So the argument is that Manson was mad at Melcher because Melcher basically told him that he wasn't going to have a music career, and that this was all over Melcher.
Because his mother told him ain't no way, and he don't realize that Melcher's bread and butter came through Doris Day. So she the one that said absolutely not when she first saw Manson, like no.
Right. So so she looked at and that's my argument. She looked at Manson and said, "This guy's a hobo. He's a loser." Right? It's like she saw it. Why didn't everybody else see it? Like she looked at this guy and was like, "Come on, man. No, get out of here, you peasant." Right? Like that's the response that I would expect. So it was so refreshing when O'Neill, when the author says like he says that she looked at Manson and goes, "You must be out your damn mind. Get him out of here. Get him out of here. He's a loser." And and that tells you a lot about Melcher, right? So we got to also keep in mind that the motive of all this really may have been about Melcher. Maybe he wasn't a plan. Maybe he just was a hobo that just happened to got all these, and that he was so mad at Melcher because he got
away with too much stuff. Manson got away with too much stuff just not to be a plan.
Yes.
He definitely was being covered by somebody.
Because
it would not be that, would be too little of a motive, and also there are supporting evidence that Manson was so much protected, and like he had like privileges, all those kind of things. You cannot imagine. I mean, like without being somebody played into or supported by or playing as a guinea pig, as I said earlier. So I don't know. I cannot imagine like he's working on his own and like anger or something like that has struck him. All this one and the remaining thing just fall as a luck.
But the mediocrity of Manson to even feel like, well, since the Beach Boys got a record, why not me? Here's my stuff, make me famous or whatever. It was just like, dude, but you can't sing. You don't really have no skills for somebody to want to produce you. It would have been different if you really had something. And that leads me to the manufactured artists, the manufactured rappers. That's why I said there's a difference between hip hop, when you talk about like Rakim or something like that, and these manufactured rappers that they got out here just talking about any and everything.
That's the infiltration of rap music. Can we talk quickly about Manson's defense attorney and how much of a hobo he is?
Oh yeah, that who was what's
his,
the defense attorney name?
How does Manson get so Irving Kerner or something like this, Irving something. But this guy was a complete hobo, right? He was horrible during the trial. And again, this is the most famous true crime case at this point in history, in American history, right?
Besides what's going on in our government right now.
No, I'm talking about at the time. I'm talking about at that time. At that time. I'm talking about as far as true. I'm talking about as far as true crime. True crime is concerned. So the judge doesn't say to Manson or in the state that this guy is not capable of representing Manson. Like the judge has that call. This guy he had like objected what he said 25 times in the opening statement. Like nobody does that. Like so why didn't the judge say this guy is not capable enough to represent you well? And
they wanted him because that was the setup to have a bad lawyer to do that, to make it look like that. Exactly.
So like, why isn't I just don't understand why the judge and then this guy Tim meets him to interview him, and the guy's a recluse. The guy's a total recluse. He's a lawyer, or was a lawyer. Did he get disbarred? I forgot what it was, but he's a total recluse. How do you represent? Like he didn't make any money off the Manson case? No, because he should have never been on the Manson case in the first place.
Yeah, they kind of like he probably got pressured into doing that, or else you do this, or else because something is wrong with that picture. Because
something's very wrong with that picture. Because at some point the judge should have said, "Listen, this is a mistrial because this guy in this very important case, he needs a co-counsel or something to help him out because he's not representing the defendant well." Like judges do that all the time, especially in a high-profile case like this. And you have this very skilled prosecutor who's what's his name? I can never pronounce his name. What's the
one that wrote the Helter Skelter?
Yeah, Helter Skelter. Bugliosi. Somebody pronounce the name properly for me.
Bugliosi.
Bugliosi. Vince
Bugliosi.
Bugliosi.
Gail. You can say Gail.
Vince.
Bugliosi.
That Gail was his wife. Vincent was a.
All right, sorry. Okay.
Vince Bugliosi
is Vincent. Yeah.
Yeah, he's just
and he moved on that Helter Skelter so quick to put the false narrative out there for people to believe what they wanted to believe. Didn't he move fast with that Helter Skelter? He was putting that out while the trial was going on, wasn't he?
It came out very shortly after.
Yeah, very around that time.
He was trying to make some money, and then it turns out that he did make a lot of money. Turns out that he was just a wicked guy. Like, turns out that he was a wicked guy. Like he was all these guys, and he like
not Vince only was Bugliosi, he wicked.
Yeah, go ahead.
He couldn't. Vince knew something was over. Vince said that he couldn't tell the truth neither. How he had to fold too. He knew that stuff was a lie. That's why his wife always be like, I hope that she have a bigger voice somewhere. I hope that he talks to her somewhere. That Tom talks to Gail somewhere along the line. I like Gail in the low cut, but she know it ain't. She know it's not right. But it's listen.
I think Bugliosi is dead now, right? I think he's dead.
Yes.
In chapter 5. Chapter 5, he said he died.
Yeah. 2017, I think he died. 14.
All these guys should be dead according to my timeline.
Yeah, because of
Time.
14, I think when he had cancer or something like that.
Kill this feedback. You guys hear that
This
feedback?
one, what you call this
We are
one?
all
Charles
agree.
Manson was like also in 2017. He died.
Yeah, man, this is something.
Yes.
I guess
Well,
we in a world where you can't go but so far. Your boundaries is just there. You can go outside of them, but if you don't have these letter agencies behind your back, you're not going behind. You're not going beyond them boundaries unless they want you to go. And they wanted Manson to go beyond them boundaries, and the people that was with him. They was really impressed with the drugs and stuff. I think that they might have could have got away the same thing with other organizations, but everybody wasn't into drugs like that. Like I said, LSD is something that's just with them. I grew up in a community where drugs was around or whatever, but LSD was not part of that drug thing.
Yeah, LSD was never really a black drug.
Yeah, one more thing. I mean, we have been carried away so much emotionally, like into that thing everywhere we are going. And Sajid is just listening quietly.
Yeah, I'm enjoying. I was just saying that we all know that murder was orchestrated, but it had to be managed in the court to get the desired results, because
But
the deep state wanted to divert the attention of common public. You know that all the important incidents were happening around, so it had to be managed in the court to get the desired results.
Do you? I mean, I would put a question here, if you allow me. I mean, do you think that that murder was orchestrated, or it happened by mistake, and then they had to manage it in the court?
No, I don't think the murder itself was orchestrated. No, go ahead, Mr. Sajid. Go ahead, Mr. Sajid. Go ahead.
It was not a mistake. It was orchestrated by deep state. And
the murder?
we gotta stop calling that thing
yeah.
a deep state. That thing is not a deep state.
Listen, I disagree.
No.
I don't think the
Yeah, I
murders.
disagree too.
I don't think the murders were orchestrated. I think Charlie was out of control.
Yeah,
And he was doing wild things, and they didn't know that he was going to do these wild things. I think people thought they were just having sex with guys and getting drunk and getting high, and I don't think they knew.
Yeah.
And then when they found out, they had to cover it up. I think it's a
this is
cover up.
Yeah,
I think it's
the
a
cover
cover
up
up,
was,
but I don't think, because they don't. I mean, one argument could be, right. Roman Polanski. But what role did Roman Polanski, because we find out that he didn't come back home. He should have been home, yada, yada, yada. But again, unless Roman Polanski is a part of these 3-digit organizations.
Like Sajid said, the deep state, but I'm calling the deep state. I'm saying the deep state that they talk about is a controlled thing. They just not out here just doing what they want to do. I think the deep state in my head, like going back to Mr. Sajid thing, the deep state, what I call a deep state, is part of some federal agencies, but I digress on that one. I can't prove it. That's just how I feel. I think when we say deep state, because they don't want to own up to their stuff, but they are some whoever the deep state, I'm gonna just use the word deep state, whoever they are some very powerful people that never be held accountable. Never be held accountable for nothing, or no faces or names come to the limelight. They are very powerful.
Listen,
we know that
if the murders were done by whoever that was organized, whether it's the LAPD, the 3-letter organizations, whoever it is, they would have did it a much cleaner. These were very amateur murders.
Yeah, I mean, I was
they
thinking.
They left witnesses. They left evidence. Right? Yeah. They snitched to themselves. I mean, how are you going to keep the knife? How are you going to steal the man's car? So you go in a man's house, you torture him, right? You stay in his house, you answer his door, you answer his phone, and then you steal his car, and you had the knife with you. Come on, I don't think. I think they just was out of control, and somebody didn't care. And then when they found out that they were involved, they were like, "Oh, let's just stay out of it." Let them be crazy.
Then the one girl that escaped, That one girl that escaped from there and went and told the police everything. They just took her and sent her back to her parents.
Right. So I think Charlie, whatever Charlie's mission was, I don't think it was murder. Um, and I think at some point he was getting so far out of control with everything that he was doing, and I think he knew he had the wasta. Let's use that word, the Arabic word. I think he knew he had wasta, and he just took it overboard. And at some point, they had to be like, "All right, let's just take him in, fry his brain, make sure he doesn't snitch, make sure his brain is completely fried." And we get the Charlie Manson that was on trial. We get the Charlie Manson that eventually would be in prison and died in prison and made no sense, right? Said nonsensical things because his brain was completely fried. And if he's in prison, they can continue to fire his brain so he can never say, "Hey, guess what? These guys one day when I was in jail put me in his room and they, they did this to my brain," right? So you know, I believe that he was a tool to make sure Hollywood stayed in their place, to make sure that they get all type. The same thing they did with King. They got stuff on King. They got stuff on everybody, right? And to make sure all these people who were
And some stuff was
potential threats.
manufactured, like just like with this Charlie Manson thing, some things were just manufactured. They
Some
just
things were
came in
manufactured.
like okay, so Mr. Sedgwick said the deep state. The only thing that I was saying about the deep state is that I really don't believe it's a deep state, but I do believe that it is some very powerful people who are never held accountable and they get blamed for a lot
Okay, we
of
can
stuff,
we
but they
can call
never held to the
non-state actors.
forefront for whatever.
Can we call them non-state actors?
Say
And
that again.
can we call them non-state actors instead of deep state?
I think deep state is a. I think you can call it the deep state.
Actors,
You can call
yeah,
it the deep state.
yeah.
You can call it the deep state. That's what I mean. That's what neocons are
I
calling
hear
it
the
right
deep
now. The
state
deep
used a lot, but sometimes the people, right, but they call it the deep state, but a lot of times they are a part of it. That's why I'm saying
state.
no, they
Yeah,
sometimes
that
they
could be
are a part
Rouge.
of it. They are, and they say that, and they say the deep state, but the deep state a lot of times be on their team. So it's like, oh,
But
it's not us. Deep state, like the deep state is something separate from them. They are a part of it. But whoever
well,
it
yeah,
is above their pay grade, and whoever it is, they never get held accountable, and
so
it's
I would
never
argue. I would argue that we're all a part of these states, these state, because we all get used. We all become. We all use as agents, right? They can all use us as agents, right? So like they dangle money in front of our face, and we go,
Melcher, I guess Melcher was an agent and Sebring was an agent, Sebring the hairdresser. Sebring was used, so they removed him. They removed him from the scene, and
yeah.
The
all the
whole
other
thing is, I mean, like,
all the
I
other
don't
persons
agree.
in the
let me
Yeah,
let,
murder.
let me say it
yeah,
this
let him.
way. Let me give you an example, and I think we got to wrap this up. But let me
Yeah.
give you an example of what I mean by that. We're all agents of the deep state, right? Most of us, some of us are have integrity and don't play that game.
Right.
But let's look at school to prison pipeline without trying to go too far off top. And I want the good doctor to chime in on this point that I'm about to make. So if you look at the school to prison pipeline, right, and that's a theory that falls under critical race theory that um, that we are basically breeding young people to become a part of the criminal justice system and then and actors within the prison criminal justice system, which will induce a higher recidivism rate, right? But if you look at the people that are putting these young kids in the school to prison pipeline, these are school teachers, and they typically school teachers of black kids. So these are black school teachers who unknowingly, because I'm not saying they're doing it knowingly, but they're unknowingly a part of the deep agents for the deep state unknowingly because they think they're doing their job and they don't know that they're harming these kids by putting them in special needs when they don't necessarily need to be in special needs. They probably just need a spanking, right? Or I'm not just, I know I'm overgeneralizing the situation, but maybe they need a spanking, or maybe they need a father in their life or a male figure in their life, some guidance, right? But no, we
Or
put
some
them
motherly love.
or some motherly love, right? But what we do is what? We do the same thing. We give them Ritalin, which we know that Ritalin is terrible, right? And we put them in programs that make them passive. We put them in programs that basically institutionalize them, right? But at the end of the day, who's doing it? It's black teachers and black principals doing it. Again, unknowingly, but because they then become agents of the deep state unknowingly. So that's what I mean when I say that we're all agents of the deep state, unless are operating, I hate this term, but woke. If you're really woke and at the will, and say, hold on a second, I'm not putting this black kid in this special needs program. Nah, I'm not going to do it because I'm gonna find an alternative way to support this young person because I don't want them to be in the system. I don't want to create a kid that's going to be relied on the system and say, you know what? I mean, I hear actually people say, you know what? I'd rather be in jail than be at home because at jail I get 3 hots in a cot, I get health care, I have some level of protection, and I'm in an environment I understand. That's institutionalization. And where does that institutionalization comes from? It comes from a school system that took them and did not give them any agency and made them dependent on the system. So again, who's doing this? This is not white people doing it. It's not the CIA agent doing it. They
But the
enlist,
directive
they
is
enlist
coming down. Not,
the,
but the
yes, the
directive for
directive come.
that is coming.
Right, right. I
So deep
understand.
state. So I understand deep
I
state.
think, I think, I think, I think, okay, good.
Yes, Dr. Mahasan, you go ahead.
No, it kind of hit a nerve. So I have to say this. I was a public school teacher for many, many years before coming to Saudi Arabia and in the city of Newark, which is, some of us here, we know what that looks like and some of us don't, but it is the inner city. And when you make a commitment to educate Black children or Black and brown children, you then are outside of the scope of what has been, as Bridget said, what has been handed down, right? So when laws are made by the boards of education, and those laws are made on top of them in terms of what kind of education we're going to have. Remember that public education was created to produce workers, not thinkers, right? And to get them used to coming in at a certain time, sitting in a space for a certain number of hours, going from class to class based on the way someone had you line up and get you from class to class. So basically, to kind of pretty much get you ready for living in that kind of situation if you did end up in prison, right? We also know that the average American child, particularly through public education, if they can't read past 4th grade, once they become adults, there's a problem. There's going to be a problem. So there are some teachers who decided that I can't be a part of the system because I can't change it, right? So you end up leaving it. You become a homeschooler. You start, teaching children at home. Building your own curriculum, developing and designing your own curriculum, and then you have a generation of teachers, as you said, that have no real idea that they are part of the problem. So when you don't know that you're a part of the problem, as you said, it continues, and you do become part of this bigger thing that you're trying to fight against. And so
you become an unknown. You're an agent for the problem that you are fighting against.
Yes. Yeah, and you don't realize it.
And
so
you don't know it. Yeah.
Does it exist? Has it always existed? Will it continue to exist? I'm sure it will. And it takes people to come out of that system, but coming out of that doesn't allow us to save everybody. It just doesn't.
The problem is you could be in the system because I know people like in Baltimore. Come on, I'm getting feedback. Where's that feedback? I can't pull it. But you could be in the system, right? and fight the
That's the deep
system.
state listening to us.
No, that's the YouTube. That's my YouTube. I didn't put it on pause.
That's
And
a
I can't
shallow
find the
state.
damn thing now.
Deep state.
But
They everywhere.
this is thing.
Beach Boys were intentionally dragged in the murder because they wanted to create a threat for other Hollywood houses, that if they don't follow our ideology, you will be held accountable like Beach Boys.
You be like Manson. Maybe we're gonna get Manson on you.
All right, guys. I think
Yeah.
we need to wrap it up. It's 9:20. So where are we going to stop reading now?
Where you would like to stop the next one?
Listen,
We
guys.
are
I'm
chapter
at the end.
5.
I'm at the end of chapter 5 now.
Yeah.
I'm at the end of chapter 5.
We are at the end of chapter 4 because last time it was decided.
No, Ray told in the group that somebody asked, and then he said chapter 5. Go ahead.
Yeah, chapter 5.
Because last meeting we skipped